Hello friends, welcome back to another series. This time I'm going to explain all aspect of the object store. What is the object store, why we need object store, and how we can use object store in our Mule application. As we are working on the integration projects, so there are many use cases or basically different kind of functionality we are getting. So those functionality or those basically design we can resolve by using our object store. So here in this video series you will able to know that whether your functionality, whether your business requirement is going to be designed or resolved by object store or not. So let me explain what is object store. So object store is Mule component that is provided by MuleSoft, and there we are restoring a key value pair. So we can define one key, and corresponding to that key we are storing a value. So there are basically many cases or basically many information we can store in the object store. For example, storing synchronization information. So let me explain you what basically I'm talking about. So for example, there are two independent flow, and the two independent flows require some information. So those information we can use in object store, and both object store we can use object store connector operations, retrieve, and passing one specific key, and that key having a value. So those flows, those are independent flow, can utilize or basically can use the same information which they have required, and we can use and we can basically utilize a watermark functionality. So let me explain what is a watermark. So we are running a scheduler, and when we are running scheduler, we are basically synchronizing our data between a two system, source system and destination system. When the first time scheduler is running, so it will sync the full load. When the next time scheduler is running, so we should not sync the full load because we already sync the load. So when the next time or second time scheduler is running, we need to sync only the delta load, or basically the data which is modified after our last sync. So those kind of information, those kind of date information which we have synced last, so that date time we can store in the object store, and that functionality is called watermark. So we can store watermark values. We can also store some temporary information, as I explained that the multiple flow having our independent flows require same information, so they can utilize object store functionalities. And access token, yes, for example, we have a two endpoint exposed, and these two endpoint connecting a same target system, and that's in order to call that target system we have to provide a token. So one way to generate a token every time, or one way to just generate a token is stored in the object store, or whenever we have a call, so we can just retrieve the token from the object store and send to the target system. So multiple endpoints can use the same data via object store, and we can also store the user information. So those are the cases which I've explained, that where we can utilize object store functionalities. And there are some other cases as well where MuleSoft is also utilizing object store functionality for their own module. For example, cache module. So let me show you how exactly, and they are basically storing information. So I'm going to show you one cache module here. Okay, this is the cache module, and when we are going to click on configuration, and so as you can see that there is a basically a reference for the object store. So as you can see that the cache module utilizing object store functionality, and that cache module provided by MuleSoft. Okay, so let me delete that, and let me basically provide another example of object store where MuleSoft utilizing internally. For example, auth enabled module. So we have a auth enabled connector, auth module, or basically auth enabled collector. Auth module is a separate module, and we have auth enabled connector as well. So those auth enabled connector is also utilizing object store functionality. Let me explain how. So let me just click on add module, and just let me just drag and drop Salesforce module. I know that Salesforce module is one of the auth enabled module. So let me show you. Let me show you the configuration of Salesforce connector. And when I select auth 2.0, here I'm getting the object store configuration. Okay, so what does it mean? It means that auth enabled connector also utilizing functionality of object store, and they are basically storing information. Basically, what kind of information? Access token, refresh token. So those kind of functionality they are storing. Okay, so here I have explained of how exactly what kind of information we can store and what kind of information is MuleSoft storing for their internal purpose. And object store having some limitation. It is not universal solution for data storage. It is not a replacement of data. It is not database. So we cannot use object store as a database, and it is also not support transaction properties where the transaction is involved and where we have to follow the asset property. So it is not transactional support, access or modification. So I have explained what is an object store. Now let me explain how we can use object store. Okay, so object store is not come with the core runtime, and so that we have to add a dependency, basically a dependency explicitly in the pom.xml. So this is a basically group ID, artifact ID, and version, and it is a Mule plugin. It is a basically a connector where we have to include in the pom.xml. Let me show you. I have already included that in my pom.xml. So let me show you. So this is my dependency section. As you can see that this module is already added. That's why I'm able to see this object store in my MuleSoft palette. Okay, and let me go back to my slide. So how we can use object store? We have to define explicitly. We can copy and paste the dependency in the pom.xml, or there is another way. What is the way? We can click on add module and we can drag and drop this object store module from here to here. Once we do that, it is visible like this way, and it will show you all operations. These are the operations. Let me count: 1 2 3 4 5 6 7. There are 7 operations we have in the object store. So let me now talk about the operations. What are all operations we have? Okay, so I have basically created one application, and this application is running currently. Let me check whether any key value are stored in the object store or not. Okay, so there is no key stored in the object store. Let me check list key. Okay, there is no key list also coming. So let me store some information here. So as I'm going to store some information here, let me explain. This is my key. So let me use like this way, so then it will be visible. Okay, so let me explain what kind of data I am sending for a store operation. So a store operation I'm sending as a data as an object, and it data is having an object, and this object having a key and value. So this key, whatever key value I'm providing, this is my key, is going to store, and what is the value I'm providing, this is the value it is going to be stored in the object store. And how I'm basically identify key and value pair. So let me explain you that here. So when I am going to click in object store operation, so it is showing me that key and value configuration. So key, as you can see that I'm passing key inside data. So it is a dynamic purpose. I just created this example so I can store multiple keys dynamically, and value is coming from data and key is also coming from data. So let me store a key one. So I've stored a key one. Okay, let me store a key two. Let me store a key 3. So I've stored a key 1, key 2, and key 3. Okay, so this is my normal operation, which where I have stored a key 1, key 2, and key 3. So let me explain some more settings. So fail if present. So as of now, I have mentioned is false. So what does it mean? That when I am going to store basically key 1 again, so it basically override. Okay, but when this property is true, so let me explain what will happen. So let's wait for deployment. Okay, so it is deployed. As you know that, let me explain you how many keys we have, list of keys. So as you can see that we have a key 1, key 2, key 3, but let me store a key 1. So when I click on key 1, so it is giving that object store already contains object for key 1. As we know that we have already stored the key 1, and as we have basically defined this setting as fail if present, when we are providing this value as true, what does it mean? That if the key is already exist, then we are getting an error. Okay, so let me go to the default setting false. So in that case, when we provide a key, if it is already exists, it will be override the value. So let basically wait for override. Let's wait for basically when our server is going to deploy again the changes. Yeah, it is deploying the changes, and let me show you operation. Yes, so this time we will not get this error. Okay, so our key, if the keys exist in the object store, if this setting, basically this store setting fail if present is false, then it will override the key. So there is another setting, what is fail on null values. So let me show you that. So basically, as of now, we have the default setting is true when we're providing a null value. So it is and we are passing a value as null, then it is going to fail. So let me show you how exactly it is going to fail. So my application is already deployed, and let me check how many keys are stored in the object. So there's no key, so I'm going to store a basically value as null. So when I click on send, so as you can see that I'm getting an error because I'm not able to store a null value. Let me store a basically one value, not null. So as you can see that this basically stored successfully. Okay, so why I'm getting error? Because I have mentioned in the configuration that it is going to fail when we are going to store a null value. So fail on null value. So let me make this application fall, and let me show you what will happen. Okay, when we passing a null value. So let's wait for deployment. Yeah, deployment done, and let me pass a basically a key to with null. Okay, so as you can see that this time we have got success response, but let me show you whether our key is successfully stored or not. Our key is not stored. So what does it mean? It means that when we providing a value as null, and this setting is enabled that it is not going to fail, so it is ignoring your key value pair, it is not stored a key. So that's how this setting is configured. So let me summarize. When we providing a value here, and when we make it this option true, and when the value is coming null, then it is going to fail because it is not allowed a null value storage. When we make this setting false and we are passing a value as null, so it will not store your key value pair, it simply ignore your key value pair. But if you want to store the value with this option, then we have to provide a value. So let me provide a value here as key to world. So when I provided that, it is stored. Let me check whether it is stored or not. So I'll just click on retrieve all. So you can see that the key 1 is hello and key 2 is world with this setting. And yes, so remove operation, this remove operation help us to basically remove the key. So let me show you. So we have a basically key 1. I'm going to remove the key 1. So the key 1 I'm going to remove, and let me show you configuration for remove. So remove is for basically removing a specific key because it require a key in a parameter. So let me check whether the key 1 is removed or not. So key 1 removed. Let me remove the key 10 as well. So let me check key 10 removed or not. Yes, key 10 is also removed. Retrieve. So we can also retrieve based on the key. We can retrieve all key values at once, and we can also retrieve one by one key. So the key where I have provided as a query parameter, and when I click on that, so the value is returning from here. Okay, so as you can see that I retrieve. Let me show you retrieve operation. Retrieve. Okay, OS retrieve. This is retrieve operation having one argument as key, which I'm providing from a query parameter. I'm passing one query parameter as a dynamic key, and whatever based on the key, it is giving a value. Let me provide a one key which is not exists. When I provide this key, so I'm getting a key not found. This is a custom message which I have defined here. In case the key is not found in the object store, so we can basically provide our default value. It can be string, it can be XML, it can be JSON, because we can generate. This is a basically expression enabled, and we can use data view to generate any basically data type, whether it is CSV, JSON, based on your requirement, you can generate a desired output when the key is not found. Okay, so this is a basically retrieve. Let me check contains. So contains is basically let me know that whether the key exists or not. So as you can see that we have a key 2, key 3, key 4, key 8, key 9 in the object store. Let me check whether the key 2 exists or not. So I'm passing a key 2 here. So as you can see that I'm getting true. When let me pass key 21. So I'm getting false here. So let me show you contains operation as well. So in the contains operations, we have this is clear operation, sorry for that. Contains, yes. So the contains operation, let me check what argument it is taking. It is taking key as an argument. Okay, and we are providing a key from query parameter. That's why I read here in the query parameter attribute, query parameter, and key name. So when I provide a key which is not exist, it is giving us false. When I provide a key which is already exists, it is giving true. Okay, and the last operation is clear, and clear is used to clear all data of object store. Okay, so when I call this one, so as you can see that we are getting a success response, and if I retrieve all, then I'm getting a basically empty response. Okay, so because I have used clear operation. So as you can see that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, there are 7 operations we have successfully called from object store. Okay, so there is basically one more thing I want to explain, that what kind of data we can store in the object store. So we can also store the XML data. Okay, based on the data, basically based on the inside the value, we can store JSON, we can store Java, we can store XML. So let me explain you how we are going to store XML. So I have just mentioned here XML. Okay, and I'm basically retrieving from data and value. So let me wait for deployment is successfully deployed. So for that I'm going to store this XML. So value, let me show you what value. So basically whatever present inside the value as considered XML. Okay, so let me show you. So value is considered XML. So if I show you this in data view editor, so how exactly the which XML is going to be stored. So yes, so basically this is my XML, and let me copy the whole thing so you will understand that what it is going to be stored. So it is storing this value in the object store. So let me call this, let me check any key exists or not. So there's no key exists, so let me provide a key name. So key name, I'm providing a key 1. Okay, when I do that, I'm getting a success response. Let me show you when I retrieve all how exactly it is showing. So you can see that it is showing as a XML string. Okay, so we can also store basically JSON, which I already explained. So based on the data type, here we can provide it stored in the object store, and it is not bind that the only JSON, only XML, only CSV store. It's basically supporting all kind of basically MIME type which we can generate from data view. Okay, so let me explain you when we are basically storing those information, where it is storing in the server. So for as you know that I am running this application in my local, and it using my Anypoint Studio server Mule runtime. So let me open what is the location of my server. So my location of server is 4.3. Basically I'm using a 4.3 runtime, so that's why let me check that. Look like I'm using a 4.3 only. So let me show you, this is my Mule runtime. So Mule runtime, you have to go to Mule, then .mule folder, then we have to open the basically application, which application I am running. I'm running object store example 0, object store example 0. Okay, and we have to click on object store. Yes, so there are basically multiple folder. One of the folder we have a key here. So this is not, let me explain, this is not, let me explain, this can be, but I'm not sure. But let me explain, this can also be, because as you can see that in object store there are basically many folder, but which folder we have, so let me explain you that. So as you can see that in this folder there are basically 2 keys stored. In this object store folder we have a 2 keys stored. So let me store one more key as a key, is key 2, and let me explain which folder having one more key. No, this is not, this is also not, this is not this. Let me check. Yeah, so basically I am searching in wrong application. So my application name is this object store example 0 under Mule folder. So this application is there, and this application having one folder called object store. Inside the object store we have basically these information, these 3 folders. So let me open one by one. As of now, all folder are basically having no information for the key. Let me store one key here. When I store a one key here, key number 1, so let me check in which folder it is goes. Yes, so it will basically store in this folder. So as you can see that we have stored our key here, and let me again store a key 2. So as you can see that the key 2 is also stored. So it's basically how exactly our MuleSoft standalone server is storing object store information. So you can verify those information inside .mule and your application name, object store, and this folder. As you can see that if basically I am going to add another key 3, then it is also going to be stored here. Okay, so as you can see that it is stored. When I open this object, this basically file in Notepad++, so it is giving me as basically a schedule, basically a serialized object, because MuleSoft using internally one serialization to basically serialize this value and saved inside the file. Okay, and this serialization can only be done via object store connector operation like retrieve. When we are retrieving all, so it is giving a value, so it is performing a retrieve. Basically it is giving a value, and it is this basically operation support deserialization. So we can, so deserialization only possible using this connector. And we are also having one more connector, retrieve. So this deserialization where the basically we are retrieving the value, so that those operations are having a basically we can say advantage or strength for deserialization. Okay, so these are all about, I have explained object store operations and with basically in their custom properties. So let me just give you that we can allow object store to use null values, but how exactly? Like this way. Okay, when we are defining a basically MIME type, in the MIME type we can define a null value. Okay, but when we directly define a null value here, okay, and so when this option is enabled in this scenario, if this option is enabled, this provide us, this basically give us exception, because we cannot store null values. So if we want that null value to be ignored, and we should not get error, so this this basically option need to be make it false, so that it will not fail, so it will basically ignore your key. Okay, but any situation come that we need to store a null value in the value section, so this is the way you can store a null value. Okay, so output application JSON, and then payload data and that value. So you can store like this way, and the value you can pass null, so this will not fail. Okay, so this is all about from my side, what is object store, how we can use object store, and why we need object store, and how many operations you have got from object store. We'll meet in part second. This is the part 1. Thank you. Bye.